Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are beginning to start the 2032 playoffs, and for the fourth consecutive season, the Yankees finished second in the AL East to the Baltimore Orioles. And for the fourth consecutive season, we will be in a wild card game. The streak that we want to break is for each of the last three seasons, we have lost that one-game wild card, hoping to change that trend in the next few days. Last year, we went on the road and faced Texas in the wild card game. This year, we will be facing the Rangers again, but we will at least be at home. Thinking about our goals with ownership as the season ends, one goal was to reach the playoffs, which we have done. Upgrade at second base, which we really didn't do. The youngster Jose Montoya was our second baseman last season, but he played better this year, so that qualifies as an upgrade. Did not improve our team stolen bases. Did make some progress on our 2034 attendance goal, but the goal that really bothers ownership is that we, again, refused to cut our payroll to the $180 million that they want it to be. So we've gotten some sternly worded emails from ownership. We are on a one-year contract right now for the third season in a row. Basically just trying to push things as far as possible to either win a World Series, which is obviously our goal, and if we don't win a World Series, find out what the breaking point is, where how many times we can just completely disregard what they want to do before firing us. And working in our benefit is that we have a legendary reputation at this point, so it's going to be a tough dismissal if they want to get rid of us, but at some point our refusal to do what they ask probably will come back and haunt us. But before we think about that, we're going to be focusing on the playoffs. So we're going to work on our playoff roster shortly, and then start simming ahead to when the playoffs begin and we have that big game against the Rangers. And as we look at our playoff roster, really didn't make any changes. The one thing we did do for the wild card game is to go down to just 12 pitchers and add a 14th bat, especially with our second baseman, Jose Montoya, a little banged up with a bruised forearm. We brought up Nick Gonzalez, utility infielder, put him on the playoff roster, and we sent down Max Alba, who's actually suspended for a game. So if we put him back on the roster, he'll be missing the first game of an ALCS, but don't want for a one-game playoff to use up a roster spot on someone who we absolutely cannot use. So that is the way we look. The playoffs begin tomorrow. We will sim ahead and see what the matchup with the Rangers looks like. It looks like we're going to be facing Reyna. So looking at the standings, Texas 90 and 72, 2 games worse than us. They were 6 games out in the AL West. We were 4 games out in the AL East. Rodrigo Reyna, 19 and 3 record with a 2.12 ERA. So we are facing an excellent pitcher, very good stuff, strong movement, very good control, and then 3 excellent pitches. And he also throws a changeup. Was a scouting discovery of the Rangers about 8 years ago, and you can see he has really improved each year in the majors. A 93 ERA plus to a 118 ERA plus to a 218 ERA plus this year. Led the league in wins, ERA, WHIP, FIP minus, and WAR. So unfortunately for us, it looks like we're going to be facing a Texas Rangers Cy Young Award winner in the one-game playoff for a second consecutive season. Last year, looking at Texas, trying to think of who the pitcher was that we faced off against last year. I'll look it up. I'll go into Texas, but he won the Cy Young Award for a second time last season, and that was who we were up against in the playoffs last season. But it wasn't Dylan Jacobs or Jonathan Vasquez. Interesting. Have to look at the entire team here. Let me pull it up and we'll talk through that. And I finally figured out how I couldn't find the pitcher we faced last year. It's because Alex Thurman is on the injured list with elbow ligament reconstruction surgery. But he won his second Cy Young Award in 3 years last year and then pitched against us in the one-game playoff last year. And as I just mentioned, going through the stats, it looks like we're going to be up against Reyna, second straight season, facing a Cy Young Award winner in a win or lose, win and you're in, lose and you go home playoff game. And I am not pleased with Regi Corona's bullpen management, that he has Jack Leiter of the 5-16 record in the 4.80 ERA pitching for us in this pivotal game because we had clinched the playoffs a couple games ago. This could mean the end of Regi Corona as our manager. I took a big gamble on him 3 seasons ago. You can see, obviously, we've been in the playoffs each of the last 3 seasons. But he's getting a little big for his britches to begin with. He now requires that he hire the hitting coach, he hire the pitching coach. I don't mess with any of the lineup stuff, so it's fully up to his discretion. But very disappointing to see that the as we head into the playoffs, looking at the pitching stats for our team, that he didn't set up the rotation, particularly when we had clinched home field with a couple games to go, that he's got Jack Leiter starting the game for us with a 5-16 ERA, 96 ERA plus. There's just so many better options. Trevor Rogers, who pitched 5 days ago, would be a great option. He was 16-6. Castillo pitched 4 games ago. Tyson Neighbors pitched 3 games ago. Christian Javier, certainly could have had him. He pitched 2 games ago when we had already clinched, and then presumably we had yesterday off. So Javier or Neighbors in particular, we made the big trade with the Pirates at the trade deadline to bring on him. He wasn't great with us, 5-4 with a 4.74 ERA, but really anyone in our rotation except for Leiter, I'd feel better about going into this game. But it is what it is at this point, but as I noted, I have not extended Regi Corona, and if we are to lose this one-game playoff for a 4th consecutive year, a 3rd consecutive year under his management, we will be looking for a new manager after he puts up the 5-16 record of Jack Leiter against the presumptive AL Cy Young Award winner in a do-or-die game. So with that as a preamble, Regi Corona is managing for his job. The Yankees may be playing for my job as well. A 1-game playoff against the Texas Rangers. And the Rangers beat us 6-0. Not surprisingly, Reyna obviously had a great game to shut us out. 4th consecutive year where the Yankees lose in the wild card game. 6 2/3 from Reyna. They turned it over to Porter, who held us down for the next 2 1/3 innings. Only 5 hits for the Yankees. Leiter wasn't horrible. 3 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings, but wasn't good either. Not much offense from the Yankees. 2 hits from Bo Bichette, 2 hits from Jose Montoya. That was the extent of the offense. So for a 4th consecutive year, the Yankees have lost a 1-game wild card. And as much as I love OOTP 22, I will be looking forward to OOTP 23 any day now, where we will have the new playoff system. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, but if we're going to have 5 teams in, might as well put 6 teams in, and we'll see if the Yankees, if I do a playthrough at some point down the road, may be more successful in the new playoff format than they have been continuing with the old school playoff format into the year of 2032. So definitely a bummer to lose in the playoff game again, but by the same token, we've got to start winning the division. It's been 4 consecutive years that we have not won the division, and we're paying the price for it. We're just not doing well. This is our 11th year as GM of the Yankees. No playoffs the first 2 years. We won 5 consecutive division titles, including the one World Series that we picked up in 2026. And now we have made the playoffs 4 consecutive years and lost in the wild card game in each of those 4 years. So definitely a bummer finish to the season for the 4th straight time to be one and done in the playoffs. And looking at our statistics for the season, we got off to a really good start in April. We're okay in May, good in June and July. We had a lead at the trade deadline, and then a losing record in August, a losing record in September, and then ended up 500 in October with the loss in the wild card game. Only won 92 games. From a Pythagorean perspective, should have been 100, so we definitely underperformed. You look at our team batting, 2nd in batting average, 4th in on-base percentage, but 1st in slugging percentage, 1st in OPS, 1st in WAR, 1st in WOBA, 1st in hits, 1st in extra base hits, 1st in home runs. Had a really good offense. 2nd in the league in scoring when all was said and done. And our pitching was also really good. 2nd in ERA, 2nd in runs allowed, 2nd in hits allowed, opponent's average, 1st in home runs allowed, a good fielding team. I'm going to be honest, when you finish 2nd in the league in runs scored and 2nd in the league in runs allowed, you should definitely be winning your division, and you probably in most cases should have home field advantage for the entire playoffs. So I feel like we've underperformed with Reggie Corona, and if it is my decision to make in the coming weeks, he will not be coming back as manager next season. We'll be looking for a new manager for the Yankees. Just has not come through in the clutch, and we've generally underperformed our Pythagorean prediction in each of the last 2 seasons. I can't remember whether we also did in his first season. So Reggie is going to be looking for a new job. The question is whether I will be. Moving to our batting statistics, we had some awesome seasons. Bo Bichette has been incredible for us in the middle of our lineup as a great defensive shortstop. Really good year. 27 homers, 94 ribbies, batted .293, 848 OPS, which was a 128 OPS plus, and put up 8.4 WAR with his excellent hitting and excellent fielding. So another great year from Bo Bichette in the middle of our lineup. Spencer Torkelson has been a great addition since we picked him up at the trade deadline a season and a half ago. 42 home runs, 89 runs batted in, 143 OPS plus for us, and a 5.2 WAR. He is going to be a free agent and likely going to be looking for a lot more money than he is getting paid this year. Also made an all-star team for the first time in his career at 33 years old, which is kind of neat. Tristan Casas, a free agent signing from this past season, had a really nice year for us. 33 homers, 91 runs batted in, 133 OPS plus, and put up a 4 WAR for us. Played first base and third base for us, and then also spent some time at DH from time to time. But a really nice season from Casas. Brian Reynolds, obviously his season was derailed by that broken hand, and he had a couple of other stints on the IL earlier. So he only played half a season, did hit 15 homers and 48 runs batted in with a 134 OPS plus in that limited time. Put up a 3.8 WAR. If he had been healthy, would probably be in the conversation for AL MVP, which Bo Bichette most likely will be in the discussion discussion for. Shiku Shu, 33 years old, going to be turning 34. Looks like he had, one of the weaker seasons he's had with us. That said, still 28 homers, 90 ribbies, 123 OPS plus, and a 3.6 WAR. Still a very valuable player for us in the outfield. Jose Montoya, the young second baseman, finally started to hit better this year. He had put up OPS pluses of 69 and 80 and got that to 106 this year with 24 homers and 71 ribbies, put up 3.3 WAR. Still only profiles as perhaps a slightly above average offensive player who is not going to walk very much at all, but very good defensively, particularly at second base. So he is, a nice piece of our lineup. A few other players to highlight. Jared Kalanick, kind of a disappointing season for the big free agent acquisition. We're paying him $24 million a year. 27 homers, 74 runs batted in, but 100 OPS plus, a little better on the WRC plus front, but only a 2.2 WAR. A little bit of a disappointing season from him. Would certainly have hoped that he would be a well above average hitter with the money that we're paying for him. So disappointing first year in pinstripes for Kalanick. Dave Bravo, the rookie first baseman, did a decent job for us. 22 homers, 61 ribbies, 114 OPS plus, and 2.2 WAR. Was a little bit of a question whether we should bring up the 23-year-old at the beginning of the season and turn the first base job over to him. But the international free agent signing from 6 years ago did a good job in his first full season with the team. Anthony Siegler moved back into the starting catching role with Francisco Alvarez's departure. Batted only .209 and only a 0.9 WAR for him. Jazz Chisholm, who we thought would have a more prominent role, was really kind of a utility player for us, and you can see he did not take well to that role, hitting just 190 with a 68 OPS plus. So a disappointing season for $8 million out of Jazz Chisholm. Gabe Cologne, one of our top young prospects, did actually end up hitting better in his final stint up with the big team. You can see he only had 79 at-bats at the major league level, but batted .316, put up a 163 OPS plus, 161 WRC plus, and a WAR of almost a run in just 16 starts and 39 games. Very excited to see how the number 51 prospect in the game, who was our international free agent signing 5 years ago, progresses in the coming years. He has a big part in our future, so we're glad that we're able to get him a little playing time this season. Other than that, Chase DeLauder, who had to play a fair amount of center field with the injuries to Brian Reynolds, didn't really do that much for us. 93 OPS plus and a slightly negative WAR on the season, with probably more usage of him than we would have preferred to have in a perfect world, but it is what it is. So those are kind of the highlights of the offensive players. We'll turn to the pitchers next. And we've already touched on a few of the pitchers when we talked about how upset we were that soon-to-be unemployed Regi Corona didn't set up the staff better than having Jack Leiter in a one-and-done game. Trevor Rogers was a great free agent acquisition for us. Unfortunately, we ended up signing him for just one season as he was coming off of a pretty significant injury that cost him most of last year in Miami, but an excellent bounce-back year for him, a 16-6 record, 158 ERA plus, and a 4.8 WAR. He will definitely be getting paid a lot more money this offseason. We'll see whether he's able to come back and join us. Hasn't made the All-Star team since 2026, but happy with the contribution that he made to the team. Leiter was second on the team in WAR at 2.2, tied with Christian Javier, who we re-signed as a free agent last year. Started 27 games for us, went 10-10 with a slightly above average ERA plus. We've got Javier for another few years. $22 million a year for a fragile guy at 35 years old is probably not optimal. in retrospect, would have loved to have locked up Trevor Rogers for longer last offseason. But you'll remember, if you have a great memory and you really pay attention to everything we talk about, that we did offer him a 3-year deal that was not enough money. And then by the time we got to sign him, coming off of his injury, he just wanted a 1-year prove-it contract, and he did a great job with that. Euricio Castillo, 26-year-old, second full year in the majors, improved from 10-7 with a 1.24 ERA plus to 13-10 with a 1.27 ERA plus this year. Put up a pitcher WAR of just 1.7 though. So similar season to his first full year in the majors last year. He is a big part of our rotation and also durable. So nice to have someone who's not so injury prone in our starting rotation. Garrett Edwards dropped out of the rotation. Probably not surprising. We signed him to a 1-year deal for $15 million. His career has really kind of gone downhill since he came to the Yankees. Performed better in that relief role with a 1.58 ERA plus, but generally don't want to be spending $15 million a year on a reliever, even if you are the Yankees. So we'll see what he ends up making next season. Tim Wallace, the closer, stepped right into the role as the Yankees closer a few seasons ago. 30 saves this season, 2.43 ERA, 191 ERA plus. A good solid season from Wallace for us. On the list of the players who maybe didn't get exactly what we wanted, Daniel Salas, only 0.7 WAR, not pitching a lot of high leverage innings, 5-0 record, 2.61 ERA. Jared Mahoney, another big arm for us out of the bullpen, 3-3 with a 3.47 ERA. And then Tyler Neighbors, the big acquisition from the Pirates, pending free agent, was 5-4, the 4.74 ERA and 97 ERA plus. Obviously would have hoped that those were a little better than they ended up being, but he did a respectable job for us and gave us some insurance in the event that we had some injuries down the stretch to the pitching staff. One last player to highlight is another player who is a future, hopefully, star for the organization. The 22-year-old Jose Espina, 92-ranked prospect in the game, ended up pitching 20 games at the major league level with a glittering 1.00 ERA, which was a 4.62 ERA plus, 46 FIP minus. The question with him is whether he's going to ever develop that curveball, and if he does develop that curveball and gets that up into the mid-50s or 60, he can probably be a starter for us. If not, he's going to most likely end up being a very good reliever, but the hope is obviously that he can develop that curveball and end up being a great starter for us down the line. We're going to spend a little time looking at the pending free agents. Fortunately, most of our big contracts are kind of wrapped up, but also getting close to coming near an end. Shiku Shu, we've got a $30 million option for him next year. Even though he had a bit of a down season, probably can't afford to let him go. He's got that great bat, and there's an argument for freeing up the spot in the outfield so that we can have the youngster Gabe Cologne with us full time, but I think between the 3 outfield spots and designated hitter, Reynolds, Kalanick, Shu, and Cologne can lost my train of thought there for a second. Cologne can fill those spots. Torkelson would be the wild card in that. We probably, if we can bring Torkelson back for a reasonable price, then maybe we do let Shu go. But let's see what they're looking for. Torkelson on a very reasonable contract, and we had the Cubs paying 40% of it the last couple seasons. He's got high greed and has hit over 40 homers for 3 straight years. I think he's going to be looking for a real big number. Yeah, $27 million a year for a 33-year-old player. He's been a great contributor, but I think we'd rather pay Shoe, $30 million, then Torkelson, $27 million at this point. So probably we'll let him go. Trevor Rogers, it's tough. He pitched incredibly well for us, 16-6, as we've talked about. His stuff is only average, very good movement and plus control. The issue now is that third pitch, being the changeup, is only a 50. He's getting to the point where, it's kind of borderline whether he's going to be an effective starter. And for a player who will be 35 next year and is also fragile, loved bringing him on for $6.5 million for a single year. Now he's looking for $13 million a year for 4 seasons. So that's a little more difficult to digest. And then Garrett Edwards, he's a kind of 5th starter at this point. But if he's willing to be realistic with his extension, $16 million a year for 4 years. So the question is whether you want Garrett Edwards, who still kind of has 4+ pitches plus a changeup, and normal injury proneness for $16 million, or would you rather have for $13 million Trevor Rogers? I honestly think I'd go with the younger player who's more durable for a few $1,000,000 more, because it really does worry me that if that changeup gets much worse, Rogers turns into a really expensive left-handed specialist out of the bullpen, which I just don't think we can afford to have. Jared Mahoney has been a really good reliever for us for several years now, former first-round draft pick, and has really done a good job for us, making $4 million this year, looking for $12.8 million a year as a reliever. He won't be getting that from us, at least not before he heads to free agency, and maybe if his price comes down. So the last big decision is Tyson Neighbors. What will this youngster be looking for? Actually, he's not even that young. He just turned 30, but has 4+ pitches, good basic pitching ratings. Has never really put it together, kind of a league average type pitcher if you look at his ERA pluses and his FIP minuses, but maybe he will be more reasonable in terms of pricing than either Edwards or Rogers, and with Neighbors being normal injury proneness, $14 million a year for a longer contract of 7 years. So he's looking for even a little more, but I think I feel most comfortable with him, quite honestly. I kind of like his profile better than Garrett Edwards at this point, without a doubt, and Garrett Edwards dropped out of the rotation. So I think I am going to make an offer to Neighbors right now to tie him up. We do have a good amount of room. We've got about $60 million right now available for extensions, so we can't re-sign everybody and probably don't want to re-sign everybody. But right now, with Javier in the rotation, and then obviously on the lower expense, we've talked about whether or not Espina could eventually get into the rotation. We'll have to see what happens on that front. But Castillo has been in the rotation the last few years, even though he's listed as a relief pitcher. So with Castillo and Javier coming back, we definitely want some more help for the rotation. So we are going to offer Tyson Neighbors a contract. Let's see what we're able to get him for. 30-year-old, normal durability, so he's not injury prone yet, which is good. Looking for about $14 million a year for 7 years. Let's see if he wants 7 years with a player option. Let's see if we can get him down to 6 years with a team option. And we will give him 12, 13, and then that last year a $14 million option with a $1.4 million buyout. So significantly less than what he's looking for, average of $13 million a year over 6 seasons instead of an average of close to 15 over 7 seasons. Let's see what he thinks of that. He's willing to think about it. So if we can bring back Tyson Neighbors at that type of contract, I think that will be one good step in the direction for hopefully improving our pitching staff as we get ready for the next season. And Tyson Neighbors did quickly sign that contract. So I like the contract. Obviously would prefer not to go to 6 years, but he was only looking for 5. But a good, capable kind of, third starter for an average of $13 million a year who's not injury prone yet. I think that's a good signing for the Yankees. And when you look at what we had to give up for him when we traded for him, it would have hurt to lose him after we had to give up 4 players for him, a couple of whom are decent prospects. So good to have him signed up. Still have, a fair amount of money, $36 million available for extensions, but there's nothing obvious that jumps off the page to me. I think Garrett Edwards is kind of a borderline reliever at this point in his career, or a 5th starter. Don't want to be paying him the money he's looking for. And I do worry, as we talked about with the profile from Trevor Rogers, that if that third pitch, which is just kind of an average changeup now, if he loses that, he's a reliever, and a very expensive reliever. So we got incredible value for $6.5 million for him last year, but we will move on and maybe sign him in free agency if he's a little more reasonable with what he's looking for. And checking in on the playoffs, our divisional foe, the Orioles, back in the World Series this year against the Cubs. They faced the Nationals last time around and lost in 6 games. We will see what happens this time around. And the Orioles are your world champions for 2032. So the Orioles have been a dominant team over the last 4 years, 4 straight AL East titles, and unlike us, they able to win some playoff games, and in this case, win the World Series. So congrats to the Birds. Hopefully we can knock them off of their perch next year. And we have made it to the off season. We've talked about the fact that we will need to make a decision on that Shiku Shu contract extension, the option year. Probably will end up extending that, as we've talked about. I feel better about $30 million for Shu than $27-ish million for Torkelson. Reviewing the goals, ownership is thrilled we made the playoffs. Happy with what we did with Montoya at second base. Unhappy that we didn't improve stolen bases. Happy with our performance in increasing attendance. And we continue to ignore his instructions about cutting payroll. And we're not working hard to reach his profit target. He's still worried with our performance, expects more from us, but he hasn't fired us. He wants us to reach the playoffs next year, upgrade at catcher, improve stolen bases, improve attendance, and make some money. So we'll see if we can achieve any of those goals. Loyalty of our fans has increased our total budget to $312 million. Team trainer Rick Jameson retired. He is excellent trainer, so that will be a big loss for us, and it looks like there's some other big losses coming up. Hitting coach Joey DeMonte, who is an excellent hitting coach, has retired. And bench coach Rob Leary also retired. So, and as I mentioned, Regi Corona is leaving. We let his contract run out. Lost our manager in the FCL, but we did get another 1-year contract extension from Brad Kreider. So we have been trying to either win the World Series or just get fired, and so far we've failed on both measures for each of the last 3 seasons. We'll have another 4th season this coming year as a lame duck personnel to see. We're still going to keep gunning for the World Series and spend a ton of his money, even if it makes him upset. But we'll see what happens. And we also let the contract for the manager of our DSL team, Kevin Witt, run out. So we knew that Regi Corona and Witt were going to be leaving, but obviously a number of key retirements that we're going to need to address. Going to be a busy offseason again for the Yankees. Getting ready for the offseason, we've talked about we're not going to extend either Garrett Edwards or Trevor Rogers. I honestly don't feel great about offering either of them a $19 million qualifying offer either, just because I don't think Edwards is, at best, he's a fifth starter, and Rogers may not be a starter at all if he can't get, if his kind of a third pitch, that changeup gets any worse. So I don't want to risk paying either of them $19 million. Love Jared Mahoney, but not going to pay a reliever $19 million. We are going to submit a qualifying offer to Torkelson, though. He's looking for like $27 million a year. Would love to have him back for 1 year, $18.9 million. Pretty hard to imagine that he will actually accept that offer from us. So hopefully we will end up getting some draft pick compensation out of it. And going to spend a little time now kind of working through the arbitration eligible players and figuring out who we want to extend and if there's anyone we want to move on from. Probably going to bring Max Alba back. We signed him for that $1 million contract last offseason. He was supposed to be kind of our swing man if we needed help in the rotation. Does have 3 good pitches, good stuff. Average-ish movement and control. Pitched 40 games for us, but never had to start for us. But I think he is a pretty good insurance policy to have in the rotation. Looks like he is looking for, or if I could click back to where I need to go. Team's expected to offer about $1.5 million for him. He's going to be looking for a little more. I'd happily bring back a guy who could be our, 6th or 7th starter theoretically, and someone who's a real nice insurance policy. He's only looking for about $1.5 million, only a little more than the arbitration number is. I'm going to see if we can get him for a little less, $1.35 million. Done. Hopefully he will end up agreeing to that. Some other players, Octavio Bachera has been good for us the last 2 years since we picked him up. Left-handed arm out of the bullpen. The issue is he's been on the IL with a torn labrum in his shoulder for a while at this point. Going to have to give that one some more thought. He's going to be 32 years old next year. Would be nice to know what the recovery looks like over the next 4 months. Not a huge ticket item at $2.4 million. If we can get him back cheap, I'd like to have him insured. He's another guy who could start for us in a pinch. You can see he did start 15 games for us in 2031 when we had some injuries. I'm not going to pay you $2.6 million, but if you'll sign for $2.2 million, coming off the injury, a little insurance for you helps us avoid arbitration. Won't go quite that low. How about $2.3 million? All right, we'll give him the offer. Hopefully we can get him signed for that. Daniel Salas, looking, want to have him back. He is a key arm in our bullpen. You can see ERA pluses and FIP minuses, always much better than average. And he's been pitching, 80 to 90 innings out of the bullpen for us every year. Definitely want to bring him back. Don't really want to pay him $3.4 million a year. Let's see if we can get him signed for $3 million. He'll hopefully accept that offer. That would be a nice signing for us. Ken Thomas, another good reliever out of our bullpen. He is only expected to get about, the team's expected to offer him about $950. He's going to be looking for more than that. He's looking for 1.04. Let's see if we can sign him for a little less, $900,000. No, how about the $950 that we were going to give you through arbitration? Let's just avoid it going into arbitration. All right, sounds like we may get him signed. Tim Wallace, our closer, definitely want to bring him back. He's starting to get expensive. Team's going to offer him $6.5 million theoretically. He's looking for $7. Let's try to get creative here. Actually, let's not look for a big extension. Can we get him for $6 million? Not quite. How about 6,250,000? Maybe. All right, that's good. Anthony Siegler is kind of our starting catcher. We have been asked by management to upgrade catcher in the off season. He's a good, solid defensive catcher. If we end up using him as a backup, I'd be happy to pay him a decent amount for that. Not 1.9 million. How about 1.5 million, Anthony? That's still a nice raise for you. Not quite enough. How about 1.6 million for 1 year? Ooh, not going well. How about 1.65 million? Does that get you interested? Playing hardball with us, Anthony. 1.7 million. We don't want to make you upset. All right, there you go. Hopefully he will accept that offer. Jose Montoya, going to be looking for 4.75 million range. He's going to be wanting more than that. He wants over 5. Let's start at 4.6, see if we can get him signed for a little less than what we might even need to go to arbitration for. Yes, hopefully that will work out. Anthony Volpe, it's been great, man. You've been a nice utility guy for us. Great personality, great leadership, work ethic, intelligence. You just have never really developed into a major league hitter. This past year did hit 273 and 11 at-bats. I went 3 for 11, all singles, 85 OPS plus. We'll have to give that one some thought. He's going to likely be splitting time between Scranton and the Yankees, so it may just be time to trade him away. Chase DeLauder actually has had a pretty important role for us as kind of a fourth outfielder. Would like somebody who's a better defensive center fielder. Kind of ran into some problems when he was starting some games for us down the stretch with the injury to Reynolds. But, an average major league hitter, he's a good fourth or fifth outfielder. I don't think we need to chase him on price, but if he's willing to be reasonable, we would certainly bring him back for another year. Let's see if he'll go for 1.3 million. I'm not going to go crazy for you, Chase. 1.35, an extra 50,000. All right. So we will continue to move through the awards, but hopefully get all of the arbitration-eligible players except Volpe taken care of, and then we will decide what to do with him shortly. And we did get a bunch of extensions signed. Fans excited about Max Alba. Slightly excited about Octavio Bachera. Hopefully they're more excited about Montoya. Yes, amazing reaction to Montoya. Tim Wallace, the closer, they like, and Ken Thomas, the reliever, they also like. So good to get those guys locked up. Can see fan interest back up to 100, astronomical market size, very good fan loyalty. Things are looking good for the Yankees right now, and we are just down to needing to figure out when we do get to the offseason proper what we're going to do with Volpe. We've got the rest of our arbitration-eligible players taken care of at this point. So award season has begun. Tyson Neighbors, who joined us from the Pirates and who he signed to an extension, won the Gold Glove at pitcher, the only Gold Glove winner among the Yankees. Reliever of the year, no Yankees receiving any votes on that front. Silver Slugger, hopefully we have a couple of those. Only one, Spencer Torkelson, who we're likely to let go. Speaking of let go, I have not opined on our option year for Shiku Shu, and I guess if I didn't opine, I think it means that we do it, but I do want to execute that option and bring back Shiku Shu, make sure that we've got him for next year wrapped up. 30 million is, not incredible value, but like I said, I'd rather pay him 30 million than Torkelson, the 27 million-ish that he is looking for. Even though Torkelson is now a Silver Slugger winner this season, and Shiku Shu was not. And AL Rookie of the Year, Dave Bravo did get one third place vote, it looks like, for it. So the youngster who had a nice season for us at first base, as the Yankees are getting a bit younger, finished with a vote for Rookie of the Year, which was nice. And another slate of awards have coming out. Manager of the Year, not a shock, Brandon Hyde of the Orioles. As I mentioned, Rodrigo Reyna of the Texas Rangers, not a unanimous Cy Young Award winner, but 29 out of 30 first place votes. So the Yankees got to avoid this wild card game because we have faced Cy Young Award winners from the Rangers in the wild card game each of the last 2 years, and not surprisingly lost. Trevor Rogers, with that nice season for us, finished third in the Cy Young Award voting. We're not going to extend him, though. Euricio Castillo got some votes, and Garrett Edwards also got some votes. So interesting, of the 3 New York Yankees who got votes for the Cy Young Award, likely Castillo, the youngster, is going to be the only one who's back with us next year. Feel that both Garrett Edwards and Trevor Rogers are kind of fifth starters or marginal starters at this point, and not willing to pay them a lot of money at this point in their career. And Wander Franco, after a long absence, winning the MVP award, I believe, in the American League. Let's go through this. Yeah, and he won 24, 25, 26, 29, and now 2032 just won his 5th MVP award. Orozco and Lozano of the Angels, I think, are the 2 who have won the last couple years. Bo Bichette, with his nice year, finished 5th in the voting. Spencer Torkelson also got some votes for the Yankees, and Trevor Rogers, the pitcher, did as well. So with that, we will call this episode a wrap. We are back on another 1-year contract, so even though we have been trying to get fired in a way so we can just move on to play OOTP 23, which should be out very, very soon. We are going to be back for another year with the Yankees. We'll try to get it right and get back on top of the AL East against the mighty Orioles. Hopefully avoid the wild card game next year, and hopefully get another World Series win at some point. Look forward to the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day.